Shrouded by time and legend, it's hard to pin down exactly when chocolate was born. But we do know that both the Mayans and Aztecs used cacao in their sacred rituals, believing it to be the food of the gods. What does any of this have to do with Hawaii? Well, happily for America's ever-growing sweet tooth, these incredible islands are the only place in the good old US of A that grow chocolate, or more accurately, cacao. Notoriously temperamental, Theobroma cacao only flourishes in a narrow band 20 degrees north and south of the equator, making Hawaii the frozen north of its growing range. Today, with island sugar production a thing of the past and pineapple growing downsized but still plentiful, diversified agriculture is the new king, and two exotics, coffee and cacao, are Hawaii's most promising cash crops.
I had been involved with cacao for some 20 years on and off, so I knew where the good stuff was, and I knew a good location. So I was involved with putting in about 20 acres back in 1996. We stood back and watched it grow, and then we sort of abandoned it for a while, interestingly enough, and then we came back to it. And the real next step was a serious one, because we actually took beans from the trees and we sent them to a chocolatier. Well, to our surprise, about 3 weeks later, they came back and said we had exceptionally fine chocolate from those beans and were extremely interested. And this was the E. Guittard Chocolate Company, a family-owned company that's been in business over 100 years on the West Coast. And this is what we have now, is an exceptionally fine chocolate that has very dark tones of cherries and blackberries and raspberries, and a hint of light fruitiness too. And for entrepreneurs and chocolatiers out there, they find this to be very exceptional. The reason we are putting so much effort, money, and time into this project is because we have stumbled upon something very special, something very unique, almost like an unpolished diamond at this point. This would be the only true commercial cacao chocolate operation in the United States.
As I've tasted different chocolates from different parts of the world, some of the famous chocolates from Venezuela or Ecuador, Madagascar, the Congo, each has a distinct flavor characteristic of those areas. And the Wailua Estate Hawaiian chocolate, too, has this single origin or single estate taste profile. It does not taste like chocolates from other areas. It truly has a uniquely Hawaiian flavor to it. Cacao tree is a very leafy tree. The leaves are large, anywhere from 9 to 18 inches long. As we look at a tree, it's flowering, the limbs and the trunk will be covered with these very small, delicate orchid-like flowers to them. And each point along that limb where the flowers are growing, potentially that's where you're also going to see the pod developing. Unlike trees from a temperate climate, tropical fruits will come right off of the limbs and even the trunk of the tree itself. The larger pods will continue to grow and will get, in some cases, almost football sized. You can't just pick the pod off of the tree. You want to preserve the point that it's coming out of. So we will go through the tree and clip the pod out. After we fill a lug, which is probably about 1,000 pounds of pods, we'll bring it back over to the mill. We use a machete and skillfully kind of crack the pod open about halfway, and as we remove it, one side will have what is basically a cob of seeds on it. And then we'll remove those seeds, and that will be put into our oak barrels, covered with banana leaf, and then fermented for approximately a week. And the fermentation process is really where the chemistry and the heat begin to bring out the cocoa flavors of the cacao. If you do not have a good fermentation, you're not going to have good chocolate flavors in the resulting product. After it's fermented for a week, we'll put it out onto drying racks and begin a sun drying process, which takes 3 weeks to a month to slowly and evenly dry and turn these cocoa beans now. And at that point, we'll bag it, store it, and then ship it to the chocolate manufacturer, Guittard. They will then begin the process of chocolate making by roasting, grinding, and recipeing the chocolate.